Eyes adjusted, he saw her, Margaret Holloway, her decomposing face frozen in a deathly grin, her bony finger extended, reaching for him. Kyle screamed. The next day he was found in his bed, mouth open in a silent wail, eyes wide with terror. His heart had simply stopped. Ethan was next. He began seeing Margaret everywhere, in mirrors, in reflections, lurking at the edges of his vision. The smell of rotting flesh filled his nostrils no matter where he went. Desperate, he tried to rid himself of the ring, but it refused to come off. It had tightened around his finger, sinking into his flesh. His skin turned gray, rotting as if he had been buried alive. By the end of the week, Ethan was found in an alley, his body withered, his finger blackened to the bone, the diamond ring still clinging to it. Damien, the ringleader, laughed it off. Coincidence, he muttered, just their minds playing tricks on them. But in the dead of night, he felt something ice-cold touch his throat. He woke up gasping, his room filled with the stench of death. The walls pulsed as if breathing, and from the darkness, a raspy whisper slithered into his ears. "Give it back." Damien's breath hitched. His fingers clawed at his throat as unseen hands choked the life from him. His body convulsed, his vision blurred. He collapsed to the floor, his last sight the diamond ring, rolling from his dead friend's finger onto the floor, glinting mockingly in the moonlight. When authorities found his body, his face was twisted in an expression of pure horror. The ring had disappeared. The town of Black Hollow remains quiet about the incident. Margaret Holloway's grave has never been disturbed again. But sometimes, on a cold, misty night, a lone shadow wanders the cemetery, whispering in the wind, "Give it back." Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
South Africa, a land of breathtaking beauty. From the majestic Table Mountain to the sprawling Kruger National Park, its landscapes captivate the soul. The warmth of its people, their resilience and spirit, leave an unforgettable mark on every visitor. But beneath this vibrant surface lies a hidden struggle, a darkness that threatens to consume the nation's hard-won unity. This is the story of xenophobia in South Africa. South Africa, often hailed as the Rainbow Nation, bears the scars of its past. Apartheid, a system of racial segregation and discrimination, cast a long shadow. Its legacy lingers in the form of deep-seated inequalities and social divisions. While the nation celebrates its diversity, a sinister undercurrent of fear and mistrust towards foreigners festers beneath the surface. This fear, often stoked by economic hardship and political opportunism, manifests as xenophobia, the dislike of or prejudice against people from other countries. It's a complex issue with deep roots in South Africa's history and socioeconomic realities. To understand xenophobia in South Africa, we must delve into the lived experiences of its people. Xenophobia in South Africa is not a recent phenomenon. It's a complex issue with a long and tangled history, deeply intertwined with the country's colonial past and the legacy of apartheid. During apartheid, the government deliberately created and exploited divisions among different racial groups. This strategy of divide and rule sowed seeds of mistrust and animosity that continue to plague South African society today. The transition to democracy in 1994 brought hope for a more just and equal society. However, the deep-seated inequalities of the apartheid era remained. The end of apartheid also saw an influx of migrants from other African countries, seeking better opportunities and escaping conflict. This influx, coupled with high levels of unemployment and poverty, fueled resentment and competition for scarce resources among some segments of the South African population. Politicians and some media outlets often exploit these anxieties, scapegoating foreigners for the country's socio-economic problems. They portray immigrants as criminals, job stealers, and a drain on resources, further inflaming xenophobic sentiments. This dangerous rhetoric creates a climate of fear and intolerance, making life precarious for foreign nationals living in South Africa. The year 2008 marked a turning point in South Africa's post-apartheid history. A wave of xenophobic violence swept across the country, leaving a trail of death, destruction, and displacement in its wake. The violence, which began in the township of Alexandra, Johannesburg, quickly spread to other parts of Gauteng province and beyond. Over 60 people were killed, thousands were displaced, and countless businesses were looted and destroyed. The 2008 attacks shocked the nation and the world, exposing the ugly underbelly of xenophobia that had been simmering beneath the surface. The images of burning homes, terrified families fleeing for their lives, and mobs armed with machetes seeded prejudices that still plagued South African society. While the immediate triggers of the violence remain complex and contested, underlying factors included high levels of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Competition for scarce resources such as housing, jobs, and basic services created a breeding ground for tension and resentment. The attacks exposed the urgent need to address the root causes of xenophobia and promote social cohesion in South Africa. Sipho, a young man from Soweto, embodies the internal conflict many South Africans face. He grew up witnessing the struggles of his community, the lack of jobs, the poverty, the desperation. Sipho also felt a sense of unease. He had friends who were foreigners, kind and hard-working people who had become part of his community. He wrestled with conflicting emotions, the anger and frustration fueled by his own struggles, and the empathy he felt for those who were also trying to build a better life. Sipho's story reflects the complex reality of xenophobia in South Africa, a toxic mix of genuine grievances, manipulation, and misplaced anger. In the face of such adversity, many have shown remarkable resilience. They have chosen to stand against the tide of hate, to build instead of destroy. These individuals and communities remind us that, even in the darkest times, the human spirit can shine brightly. Their stories are a testament to the power of unity, compassion, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Bridging the divide requires more than just words. It requires action, empathy, and a willingness to understand. By fostering dialogues and creating spaces where people can share their stories and experiences, we can begin to dismantle the barriers that separate us. Education and awareness are crucial in this journey. Through understanding and mutual respect, we can build a society that values diversity and inclusivity. So what can we do? It starts with each of us. We must challenge our own prejudices and stand up against xenophobia whenever and wherever we encounter it. Support organizations that promote integration and support for all communities. Advocate for policies that address the root causes of inequality and provide opportunities for everyone. Together, we can create a South Africa where everyone has a chance to thrive. Let's be the change we wish to see.
Welcome to our channel! Today we embark on a journey through time, exploring some of the darkest chapters in human history. These are not tales for the faint of heart, for we are about to delve into events of immense suffering, events that will send shivers down your spine. From pandemics to genocides, these events remind us of the of peace and the depths of human cruelty. But they also highlight the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to endure even in the face of unimaginable hardship. Let's begin our journey. The year is 1347. A darkness creeps across Europe, a silent, invisible predator arriving on infested ships from the east. This is the Black Death, a bubonic plague so devastating that it will forever alter the course of history. The Black Death, spread by fleas carried by rats, thrives in this environment, tearing through villages, towns, and cities with terrifying speed. The sick are ravaged by fever, their bodies covered in painful black boils. Death, when it comes, is a merciful release, but a release that claims millions. Entire families are wiped out, leaving homes to fall silent, their hearths growing cold. By the time the Black Death retreats, it leaves a continent reeling, its population decimated, its social fabric torn asunder. From the shadows of plague, we emerge into the firelight of another terrifying era, the Spanish Inquisition. Picture a time when religious fervor grips a nation, when whispers of heresy can seal your fate. The year is 1478, and under the banner of religious purity, King Ferdinand II and Queen Isabella I of Spain unleash a terrifying force, the Spanish Inquisition. Their goal to eradicate heresy and solidify Catholicism's grip on Spain. Suspects, often accused based on flimsy evidence or malicious rumors, face horrific tortures: the rack, the strappado, the water cure. For those found guilty, a grim fate awaits. The auto de fe, a public spectacle of punishment where the condemned are burned at the stake. The Spanish Inquisition casts a long shadow, instilling fear not only within Spain but throughout Europe. We shift now to the 20th century, a century marked by advancements in science and technology, but also by unparalleled human conflict. The world watches in disbelief as newsreels flicker to life, showcasing a new kind of horror. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It is August 1945. World War II, a conflict that has already consumed millions of lives, is nearing its end. On August 6th, an American B-29 bomber, the Enola Gay, drops a single bomb over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The world changes in an instant. The blinding flash, the deafening roar, the mushroom cloud billowing skyward, these are the harbingers of the atomic age. Hiroshima, once a bustling city, is reduced to rubble and ash in the blink of an eye. Thousands perish instantly, vaporized by the unimaginable heat. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serve as a stark and terrifying reminder of the destructive power we hold within our grasp. From the ashes of war, we turn our attention to a different kind of devastation, a famine so vast, so horrific, that it defies comprehension. This is the Great Chinese Famine, a man-made catastrophe that will claim the lives of tens of millions. The year is 1959. China, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, embarks on an ambitious plan, the Great Leap Forward, a utopian vision of rapid industrialization and agricultural collectivization. Forced collectivization disrupts traditional farming practices, leading to disastrous harvests. Government quotas set unrealistically high force farmers to surrender even their meager reserves. The result is a famine of unimaginable proportions. People are reduced to eating grass, bark, even dirt, desperate to stave off the gnawing pangs of starvation. The Great Chinese Famine stands as a chilling testament to the devastating consequences of government mismanagement and ideological rigidity. In the heart of Africa, a nation descends into madness. This is Rwanda, and the year is 1994. What begins as simmering ethnic tensions between the Hutu and Tutsi populations explodes into a frenzy of violence that will shock the world. In just 100 days, an estimated 800,000 people, mostly Tutsis, are brutally murdered in a genocidal rampage orchestrated by Hutu extremists. Fueled by hatred and propaganda, neighbors turn on neighbors, friends turn on friends. Machetes, clubs, and guns become the tools of a genocide that spares no one. Men, women, and children are all mercilessly slaughtered. The Rwandan genocide stands as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of ethnic hatred and the failure of the international community to act decisively. We come now to one of the darkest chapters in human history, a chapter so horrific, so utterly devoid of humanity, that it defies comprehension. This is the Holocaust, the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews by Nazi Germany during World War II. Driven by a twisted ideology of racial purity and fueled by anti-Semitism, the Nazis embark on a campaign of genocide, targeting not only Jews but also Roma, homosexuals, the disabled, and anyone deemed unfit for their so-called master race. The names of these camps, Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor, have become synonymous with horror, their gates marking the entrance to a living hell. The Holocaust stands as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity and the dangers of unchecked hatred. From the horrors of the Holocaust, we journey to 19th century Ireland, a land gripped by famine, a famine that will decimate a nation and leave scars that linger to this day. The year is 1845. Ireland, a nation heavily reliant on the potato as its staple crop, faces a catastrophe, potato blight. A disease that rots the potato in the ground sweeps across the island. The field of once promising crops turns black and putrid, leaving the Irish people facing starvation. The British government, then ruling Ireland, responds with a mixture of indifference and incompetence. Relief efforts are slow and inadequate, and the export of other Irish crops to England continues, even as the Irish people starve. Families are torn apart as people flee the countryside in search of food or passage to America, often on overcrowded, disease-ridden ships known as coffin ships. The Irish potato famine stands as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of agricultural dependence and government inaction. We journey now to Southeast Asia, to the killing fields of Cambodia, where a brutal regime will unleash a reign of terror upon its own people. This is the era of the Khmer Rouge, a communist party led by the ruthless dictator Pol Pot. The year is 1975. Cambodia, ravaged by years of civil war, falls to the Khmer Rouge. Their vision, a radical transformation of Cambodian society into an agrarian utopia. Cities are forcibly evacuated, their inhabitants driven into the countryside to work as slave laborers on collective farms. Intellectuals, professionals, anyone deemed an enemy of the revolution is targeted for elimination. Prisons, such as the infamous Tool Sleng, torture chambers, tortured and executed. The killing fields, mass graves scattered across the Cambodian countryside, bear silent witness to the horrors inflicted upon the Cambodian people. The Khmer Rouge regime stands as a chilling reminder of the dangers of ideological extremism and the human capacity for unimaginable cruelty. In the heartland of America, a tragedy unfolds, a forced migration that will become a tragic symbol of injustice and displacement. This is the Trail of Tears, the forced relocation of Native Americans from their ancestral lands in the southeastern United States. The year is 1838. The United States enacts the Indian Removal Act, authorizing the forced relocation of Native American tribes from their ancestral homelands in the southeast to designated Indian territory west of the Mississippi River. Forced from their homes, their land confiscated, they're herded into internment camps, their lives upended, their cultures threatened. The Trail of Tears becomes a symbol of the brutal treatment of Native Americans at the hands of the United States government. Our journey through history's darkest hours takes us now to France, a nation on the cusp of revolution, a revolution that will promise liberty, equality, and fraternity, but will also descend into a maelstrom of violence and terror. The year is 1793. The French Revolution, which began with such high hopes, has taken a sinister turn. The reign of terror, orchestrated by the Committee of Public Safety, grips the nation in a vice of fear and paranoia. Led by the radical Jacobin faction, the committee seeks to eliminate all enemies of the revolution, real or imagined. The guillotine, a symbol of revolutionary justice, becomes a gruesome spectacle, its blade claiming the lives of thousands. Nobles, priests, peasants, even revolutionaries themselves fall victim to the terror. The Reign of Terror serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the seductive allure of revolutionary zeal. As we conclude our journey through these harrowing chapters of human history, we are left with a profound sense of sorrow for the countless lives lost, the unimaginable suffering endured. These events, though difficult to confront, serve as stark reminders of the fragility of peace, the ever-present potential for cruelty and violence that resides within humanity. Yet, Amidst the darkness, we also find glimmers of hope, testaments to the resilience of the human spirit. These events remind us of the importance of vigilance, of safeguarding human rights, and of striving to create a more just and compassionate world for all. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe for more historical insights. Thanks for watching.
The history of law enforcement in the United States is riddled with moments of both triumph and tragedy. Some of the most harrowing episodes involve shootouts between law enforcement officers and dangerous criminals. These events often unfold in the blink of an eye, leaving behind a trail of casualties and unanswered questions. One such incident etched in the annals of the FBI is the 1986 Miami shootout. This confrontation left 2 agents dead and 5 wounded, serving as a stark reminder of the perils faced by those who wear the badge. Years later, the 2021 Sunrise, Florida shootout would once again plunge the nation into mourning, highlighting the ever-present dangers faced by law enforcement officers in the line of duty. The 1986 Miami shootout involved a stakeout of 2 bank robbers. It turned into a firefight that lasted minutes, but left an indelible mark on the FBI. The incident led to changes in training, equipment and tactics. It emphasized the need for better firepower and armor to protect agents in the field. Yet despite advancements in training and technology, the threat to law enforcement remains ever present. As the Sunrise shootout would tragically demonstrate, even the most routine operations can erupt into violence, underscoring the bravery and sacrifice demanded of those who serve and protect. February 2nd, 2021 dawned like any other day in Sunrise, Florida. But for 5 special agents of the FBI, it would become a day of unimaginable loss and sacrifice. Tasked with serving a federal search warrant, these agents walked into the heart of darkness. Their target, a suspected possessor of child pornography hidden within a seemingly ordinary apartment complex. The agents were unaware that their investigation would lead them into one of the deadliest ambushes in FBI history. The quiet morning air would soon be shattered by the deafening roar of gunfire. The peaceful facade of the apartment complex would be ripped apart by violence. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the scene, the nation would learn of the tragic events unfolding in Sunrise. The shootout would claim the lives of 2 agents and leave 3 others wounded, marking a somber day for the FBI and the nation. It would also ignite a firestorm of debate about the dangers of online child exploitation and the risks faced by those who combat it. The agents who arrived at the Sunrise apartment complex were on the front lines of a battle against one of the most heinous crimes imaginable: child exploitation. The internet, for all its benefits, has become a breeding ground for the creation and distribution of child sexual abuse material. Predators lurk in the shadows of the digital world, exploiting the innocent and vulnerable. The FBI plays a crucial role in investigating and apprehending these criminals, working tirelessly to rescue victims and bring perpetrators to justice. The agents who lost their lives in Sunrise were dedicated to protecting the most vulnerable members of society. They understood the devastating impact of child exploitation. They knew that behind every image and video lies a real child who has suffered unimaginable abuse. Their mission that day was to gather evidence against an individual suspected of fueling this horrific industry. Their courage and sacrifice serve as a stark reminder of the importance of combating child exploitation in all its forms. It is a battle that requires constant vigilance, relentless investigation, and unwavering dedication from law enforcement agencies worldwide. The federal search warrant was clear. Agents were authorized to enter the suspect's apartment and search for evidence related to the possession and distribution of child pornography. Such warrants are not issued lightly. They are the result of meticulous investigative work, often involving the analysis of online activity, digital footprints, and other intelligence. In the Sunrise case, agents had gathered sufficient probable cause to convince a judge that evidence of a crime would likely be found within the apartment. Armed with this legal authority, the agents approached the apartment door. They were prepared for a range of possibilities. Experience had taught them that even seemingly routine warrant executions could quickly turn dangerous. They announced their presence, identifying themselves as FBI agents and stating their purpose. What they couldn't have known was that the suspect, David Lee Huber, was waiting on the other side. He was armed and ready to unleash a torrent of violence that would have devastating consequences. Section 5. Ambush, a hail of gunfire. As the agents entered the apartment, they were met with immediate and overwhelming gunfire. Huber, concealed within, had transformed his home into a deadly trap. He lay in wait, his finger on the trigger, ready to spring his ambush. The agents, caught off guard, found themselves in a desperate fight for their lives. Bullets ripped through the air, shattering the morning calm and transforming the apartment complex into a war zone. The agents, though surprised, reacted with the training and courage instilled in them. They returned fire, seeking to neutralize the threat and protect themselves and their colleagues, but the damage was swift and severe. Two agents, Special Agents Daniel Alfin and Laura Schwarzenberger, were fatally wounded. 3 others, their bodies bearing the scars of that horrific day. The shootout, though brief, was intensely violent, a stark reminder of the deadly risks faced by law enforcement officers every time they don their uniforms. Section 6. The Face of Evil, David Lee Huber. In the aftermath of the shootout, as investigators pieced together the events of that tragic day, the name David Lee Huber emerged as the perpetrator of this horrific act of violence. Huber, a 55-year-old man, was no stranger to darkness. His past was littered with red flags, including a history of mental health issues and a documented fascination with violence. He had a documented history of making threats and exhibiting erratic behavior. Huber's online activity painted a disturbing picture. He frequented websites and forums known to harbor extremists and individuals with violent ideologies. His digital footprint revealed a descent into a world of hate, violence, and depravity. While the exact motivations behind his actions may never be fully understood, Huber was a deeply troubled individual consumed by darkness. His decision to arm himself and open fire on law enforcement officers was a final act of cowardice and hatred, one that would forever link his name to the tragedy in Sunrise. Section 7. National Mourning and Outrage. News of the shootout sent shockwaves across the nation. Flags were lowered to half-mast as Americans mourned the loss of 2 dedicated public servants. President Joe Biden expressed his condolences to the families of the fallen agents, praising their courage and sacrifice. He ordered flags to be flown at half-staff at the White House and all public buildings. He called for a moment of national unity and reflection, urging Americans to honor the service and sacrifice of law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every day. FBI Director Christopher A. Wray issued a statement expressing his profound sadness and vowing to honor the memories of the fallen agents by continuing their mission to protect the American people. The FBI community, a tight-knit brotherhood forged in service and sacrifice, grieved the loss of 2 of their own. The Sunrise shootout served as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in their profession, a profession that demands unwavering courage and a willingness to confront evil head-on. The nation mourned alongside the families, friends and colleagues of the fallen, united in grief and gratitude for their service. Section 8. Scars on the Badge, the Aftermath. The Sunrise shootout left an indelible mark on the FBI. In the wake of the tragedy, the Bureau launched a comprehensive review of its tactical operations, training protocols, and equipment. The goal to identify any potential shortcomings and implement changes to better protect agents in the field. The FBI also provided counseling and support services to the agents involved in the shootout, recognizing the psychological toll of such traumatic events. Beyond the immediate impact on the FBI, the Sunrise shootout sparked a broader conversation about the dangers of online child exploitation. Lawmakers, law enforcement officials and child advocacy groups renewed calls for increased resources to combat this growing epidemic. The tragedy served as a stark reminder of the hidden victims of online predators and the importance of vigilance, education and proactive law enforcement efforts to protect children from harm. Section 9. Remembering the Fallen, Forging Ahead. The Sunrise, Florida shootout stands as a grim reminder of the risks faced by those who dedicate their lives to protecting others. Special Agents Daniel Alfin and Laura Schwarzenberger made the ultimate sacrifice while serving their country. Their deaths are a profound loss to their families, the FBI, and the nation. It is essential to remember their service, their courage, and their unwavering dedication to justice. In the face of tragedy, it is human nature to question, to search for meaning in the midst of senseless violence. While we may never have all the answers, we can honor the memories of those lost by continuing their mission. We can support law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every day. We can work to create a safer world for our children. And we can never forget the sacrifices made by those who gave their all. William Matix and Michael Platt were career criminals. Their rap sheet was long, filled with armed robbery, assault and even murder. The FBI had been watching them for months. They were suspected of robbing banks and armored cars across the Miami area. Matix, a former soldier, was considered the more dangerous of the two. He was known for his ruthlessness and lack of hesitation when using violence. Platt, while less experienced, was equally unpredictable and volatile. The pair had perfected their criminal enterprise. They were quick, efficient, and left few witnesses. Their brazen disregard for the law made them a top priority for law enforcement. The FBI was determined to bring them to justice. But Matix and Platt were cunning adversaries. They were always one step ahead, always prepared to escalate the situation if cornered. The FBI knew they needed a solid plan to apprehend the duo. This was not a simple case of petty theft. These were hardened criminals who would not go down without a fight. The agents involved knew they were dealing with dangerous individuals, but none could have predicted the level of violence that would unfold on that fateful day in April. April 11, 1986 started like any other day in Miami. The sun was shining, the air was thick with humidity. Unbeknownst to the public, a team of FBI agents was preparing for a confrontation that would change everything. Special Agents Ben Grogan and Jerry Dove were among the team tasked with tracking Matix and Platt. Both were highly decorated agents with years of experience. The agents had been following the suspects for days, waiting for the right moment to make their move. They knew Matix and Platt were armed and dangerous, so they proceeded with extreme caution. The tension was palpable as the agents waited in their unmarked cars, their eyes glued to the suspect's vehicle. Every rustle of leaves, every passing car sent a jolt of adrenaline through their veins. The plan was simple. Tail the suspects, wait for them to slip up, and apprehend them when the opportunity arose. However, Matix and Platt were not known for making things easy. The agents knew this was a high-risk operation, but they were committed to bringing the criminals to justice. They were prepared to risk their lives to uphold the law and protect the public. The agents followed Matix and Platt as they drove through the suburban streets of Miami. The atmosphere inside the FBI vehicles was tense, every agent alert and ready. They knew this was a critical moment. One wrong move could have deadly consequences. The suspects, seemingly oblivious to the danger lurking behind them, continued their drive. As Matix and Platt's car slowed to turn onto a quiet street, the agents decided to move in. They had to act quickly and decisively to control the situation. Several unmarked FBI cars moved to box in the suspect's vehicle, hoping to take them by surprise. The element of surprise was crucial. The agents needed to gain control before Matix and Platt could react. The agents, adrenaline pumping, jumped out of their vehicles, weapons drawn, shouting commands for the suspects to surrender. They had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but that hope was quickly dashed as the situation escalated in the blink of an eye. Matix and Platt, trapped and desperate, were not about to go down without a fight. Section 4. A firefight erupts. Shots fired, lives lost. The peace of that sunny Miami morning was shattered by the deafening roar of gunfire. Matix and Platt opened fire on the surrounding agents. The once quiet street transformed into a chaotic battleground as bullets flew through the air. The agents, caught off guard but highly trained, returned fire, seeking cover behind their vehicles. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and the sound of shattering glass. Each agent fought with the courage and determination instilled in them through years of training. However, the suspects, armed with superior firepower, gained the upper hand in the initial moments of the shootout. They unleashed a barrage of bullets, pinning down the agents and preventing them from returning fire effectively. Tragically, amidst the chaos and confusion, two agents, Special Agent Ben Grogan and Special Agent Jerry Dove, were struck down by the hail of bullets. Their fellow agents, heartbroken but resolute, continued to fight back, determined to neutralize the threat and honor the sacrifice of their fallen comrades. The shootout raged on, a desperate struggle for survival against ruthless criminals. Section 5. The Aftermath. A Nation Mourns, the FBI Re-Evaluates. The 1986 FBI Miami shootout sent shockwaves across the nation. The image of two fallen agents, slain in the line of duty, served as a stark reminder of the dangers faced by law enforcement officers every day. The shootout, lasting only 4 minutes, had resulted in the deaths of 2 agents and the wounding of 5 others. It was a devastating loss for the FBI, and a tragedy that left an indelible mark on the Bureau's history. The shootout forced the FBI to confront a harsh reality. Their standard-issue revolvers and semi-automatic pistols were outmatched by the superior firepower wielded by criminals like Matix and Platt. This realization led to a complete overhaul of the FBI's weapons policies and training protocols. The Bureau recognized the urgent need to equip its agents with the tools and training necessary to face the evolving landscape of criminal activity. The FBI immediately began phasing out revolvers in favor of semi-automatic pistols with higher magazine capacities. They also implemented more rigorous firearms training, emphasizing tactical maneuvers and close-quarters combat. The tragic events in Miami served as a catalyst for change, prompting the FBI to prioritize the safety and preparedness of its agents facing increasingly dangerous situations. In the beginning, there was nothing. Imagine a vast emptiness, darker than the darkest night. No stars twinkled, no planets spun. There was only silence. This was the cosmic void, a place where nothing existed. But from this nothingness, something extraordinary would emerge. The Sumerians, an ancient people who lived in Mesopotamia, believed that this void held the seeds of creation. They imagined it as a swirling chaos, full of potential but lacking form or purpose. It was a time before time, a place where everything was possible and nothing was certain. From this primordial soup, 2 powerful forces emerged. These were the first gods, Apsu and Tiamat, the embodiments of fresh water and salt water. Their arrival shattered the silence of the void and set in motion a chain of events that would shape the destiny of the cosmos and give birth to the world as we know it. The Sumerian creation myth, passed down through generations in epic poems and inscribed on clay tablets, offers a glimpse into the beliefs and values of this ancient civilization. a civilization that laid the foundations for much of Western thought and culture. Out of the darkness, Apsu emerged. He was the god of fresh water, the sweet waters that flowed beneath the earth and nourished the land. Apsu was vast and powerful, his body a swirling mass of currents and eddies. He represented the life-giving force of water, essential for all creation. Then came Tiamat, the goddess of salt water. She was the embodiment of the chaotic and untamed seas. Her form was terrifying and wondrous, a serpentine creature with shimmering scales and eyes that blazed with ancient power. Tiamat represented the primal forces of nature, both beautiful and deadly. Together, Apsu and Tiamat were the first pair of gods, the primordial parents of everything that would come after. They mingled their waters, the sweet and the salt. In the union, the first generation of gods was born. These new gods, full of youthful energy, would soon challenge the old order, leading to a cosmic struggle for power. This clash between the old and the new, between order and chaos, is a recurring theme in mythology across cultures. The Sumerian creation myth captures this timeless struggle with vivid imagery and dramatic intensity. Apsu and Tiamat gave birth to a new generation of gods. These were not the monstrous beings of Tiamat's later wrath. No, these were gods of light and sky, of wind and earth. They were powerful and full of energy, constantly moving and shaking things up. Among the firstborn were Anu, the god of the sky, Enlil, the god of wind and storm, and Enki, the god of wisdom and water. These three would become the most powerful of the gods, shaping the world and the destinies of mortals. Anu rose to rule the heavens, his gaze encompassing all that lay below. Enlil, mighty and tempestuous, commanded the winds and storms, his voice booming across the earth. Enki, clever and resourceful, delved into the mysteries of creation, seeking knowledge and understanding. These new gods, full of life and vigor, were a stark contrast to their more primal parents. Where Apsu and Tiamat represented the unchanging forces of nature, their offspring embodied change itself, constantly pushing the boundaries of creation and challenging the established order. The new gods were a boisterous bunch, always moving and shaking, singing and dancing. Their energy filled the cosmos. But Apsu, accustomed to the quiet stillness of the void, grew weary of their constant activity. He longed for peace and quiet, for a return to the time before the gods. Apsu complained to Tiamat, "Their clamour never ceases. I cannot rest, I cannot think. We must silence them and reclaim our peace." Tiamat, though initially hesitant, was swayed by Apsu's pleas and agreed to help him subdue their unruly offspring. However, Enki, the cleverest of the gods, overheard their plotting. He devised a plan to protect himself and his siblings. Using his cunning and mastery over magic, Enki lulled Apsu into a deep sleep. With Apsu slumbering, Enki bound him and stripped him of his power. This act of rebellion marked a turning point in the cosmic order. The old gods were overthrown and a new era had begun, an era ruled by the younger gods. But the victory was short-lived. Tiamat, enraged by the betrayal of her offspring and the humiliation of her consort, vowed revenge. Her fury shook the very foundations of the cosmos, and a terrible darkness descended upon the world. Section 5. Tiamat's Rage and the Monstrous Army. The murder of Apsu unleashed Tiamat's full fury. Her grief twisted into a terrible rage, a tempest that threatened to unravel creation itself. She became a monstrous caricature of her former self, consumed by vengeance. To avenge Apsu and reclaim her lost power, Tiamat created a fearsome army of monsters. She spawned monstrous serpents, dragons with razor-sharp claws, and scorpion men with venomous tails. Her children, horrified by their mother's transformation and fearing for their own lives, were helpless to stop. Tiamat's rage knew no bounds. She breathed poison into the air and unleashed storms that ravaged the earth. The other gods trembled before her wrath. They knew that unless someone stopped her, Tiamat would destroy all they had created. The cosmos trembled as Tiamat prepared for war. Her monstrous army, a grotesque parody of creation, swarmed around her, eager to unleash chaos upon the world. The fate of the cosmos hung in the balance. The delicate order established by the younger gods on the verge of being swallowed by the primordial chaos Tiamat now represented. Section 6. Marduk, the champion of the gods. Fear gripped the hearts of the younger gods. Tiamat's power was immense, her fury unstoppable. Who among them could stand against her? In their desperation, they turned to Enki, hoping his wisdom could offer a solution. But Enki, for all his wisdom, knew he was no match for Tiamat's raw power. He proposed they seek out his son, Marduk, a young god whose strength and courage were unmatched. Marduk, armed with his father's cunning and a heart filled with righteous fury, agreed to confront Tiamat. But he had one condition. He wanted to be named the supreme ruler of the gods, his authority unquestioned. Desperate, the gods agreed to his terms. Marduk, now their champion, prepared for the ultimate battle. Marduk was a god of storms and agriculture, his power reflecting both the destructive and life-giving forces of nature. He was armed with lightning bolts, a symbol of his divine authority, and a net woven by his grandmother, representing his strategic brilliance. With these weapons and the fate of the cosmos resting on his shoulders, Marduk rode out to confront the monstrous Tiamat. Section 7. The epic battle, Marduk versus Tiamat. The battle between Marduk and Tiamat was a clash of titans, a cosmic struggle that shook the very foundations of existence. The heavens roared with thunder as Marduk, riding his chariot drawn by 4 winds, faced off against Tiamat, her monstrous form blotting out the sun. Marduk unleashed a torrent of wind and lightning upon Tiamat, tearing at her monstrous form. But Tiamat, fueled by rage and ancient power, fought back with ferocity. Her monstrous offspring, a grotesque menagerie of claws and fangs, swarmed around Marduk, trying to overwhelm him. Yet Marduk stood firm. He ensnared Tiamat in his net, trapping her thrashing body. Then, with a final, earth-shattering blow, Marduk unleashed his most powerful wind that ripped through Tiamat's defenses, splitting her body in 2. With Tiamat vanquished, her monstrous army scattered, and the cosmos fell silent. Marduk, victorious, stood triumphant over the remains of his foe. He had saved the gods and ensured the survival of creation. But the battle had reshaped the cosmos, and Marduk, as promised, was now the supreme ruler. Section 8. The creation of humanity. Marduk, having vanquished Tiamat and secured his position as king of the gods, set about creating a new world from the remains of the old. He took Tiamat's lifeless body and split it in 2 like a giant clamshell. With one half, Marduk formed the heavens, creating a vast dome to hold back the chaotic waters above. With the other half, he fashioned the earth, shaping mountains and valleys, rivers and seas. But Marduk's creation wasn't complete. He needed someone to inhabit this new world, to tend its gardens and honor the gods. So he took the blood of Kingu, Tiamat's most favored general, and mixed it with clay. From this mixture, he molded the first humans, creatures of both earth and divine essence. Thus, humanity was born from the ashes of cosmic conflict, a